Good afternoon. I would like to call to order this regularly scheduled Ways and Means Committee. My name is Councilmember Wasami, and I'm the chair of the committee. And with me today, we have Councilman Cunningham, Councilman Andrew Johnson, Councilman Fletcher, Councilmember Lene Palmisano, and Council Vice President Andrea Jenkins also here. And we have a quorum. We have an exciting items on the agenda today. We have 26 items on our agenda. One item is a public hearing. The rest of the items 2 to 26, are consent. What I will do is I will move the consent items. I will read them and move the consent items, and then we will do with our public hearing item. So the consent items are as follows. Number 2 is a legal settlement claim of Brian K. Pfeiffer. Number 3 is a legal settlement claim of Georgina L. Schultz. Number 4 is a no-fault claim of James T. Frost. Number 5 is a contract amendment with NRG Energy Center for steam supply to heat the public service center and the community service building. Number 6 is a bid for the Minneapolis Eastside Storage and Maintenance Facility demolition project. Number 7 is a contract with CS Disco Inc. for the e-discovery platform subscription used by both the city's attorney's office and the office of the city clerk. Number 8 is a contract with Safari Books Online for accessing the information technology, electronics books for the information technology IT department. Number 9 is a contract with Smart Data Solutions Inc. for scanning, record labeling, and data transfer services for the city enterprise content management systems. Number 10 is an agreement with the Neighborhood Health Source to provide sexual health services. Number 11 is a contract with Fairview Health Services for the laboratory testing services associated with the city's school-based clinics. Number 12 is a contract with Clifton Larson LLP and Mike Wilson Associates for the Neighborhood Audit Services panel. Number 13 is a grant acceptance from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, the Metropolitan Council Tax-Based Revitalization Account, and the Hennepin County Environmental Response Fund for the fall 2017 Brownfield Grant Round. Number 14 is a bid for Fridley Lift Station improvements. Number 15 is a bid for installation of large diameter cured in-place pipe. Number 16 is application for Hennepin County Bicycle and Sidewalk Grants Fund. Number 17 is 61st Street West, Lindell Avenue South, Nicola Avenue South Street Reconstruction Project, approval, assessment, areaway abandonment, and appropriation increase. Number 18 is an interagency cooperative agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for construction of traffic signals. Number 19 is a contract amendment with Zan Associates for work on the 4th Street Reconstruction Project. Number 20 is a contract amendment with Interstate Improvement, Inc. for concrete pavement rehabilitation. Number 21 is a contract amendment with the Waste Management, Inc. for continued transfer station operations. Number 22 is a contract amendment with People's Electric for additional wiring LED light fixtures in the ABC parking ramps. Number 23 is a contract amendment with Bar Engineering for North Region modeling work. Number 24 is a contract with Menzel Enterprise Inc. for towing services. Number 25 is an Hennepin Avenue South, Lake Street to West 36th Street, reconstruction project approval, assessment, and areaway abandonment. Number 26 is Penn Avenue North, Lowry Avenue North to West Broadway, street reconstruction project approval, assessment, and areaway abandonment. We are done. These are the consent items. Any discussion? Councilmember Johnson.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is a question for you or for our clerk, but I know that we've got 2 walk-on items from the Housing Policy and Development Committee, and I'm not sure if those get incorporated into the consent agenda or if they need to be touched by this committee.
No, thank you very much. You are correct. And I have 2 more items to put on consent, the walk-in items. Both were from the Housing Policy and Development Committee, just like Councilmember Johnson mentioned. And they are, number one is the Family Housing Initiative Supplement Award for Minnehaha Townhomes, basically approving additional funding of up to $240,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Funds Family Housing Initiative for the Minnehaha Townhomes project located at 5348, 5364, and 5368 Riverview Road and 5118 East 54th Street to the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority or an affiliated entity. And number two is authorizing an increase to contract C39596 with Homeline in the amount of $100,000 for a new total amount not to exceed $400,000 and an extension from December 31st, 2017 to December 31st, 2018. So basically a contract amendment with Homeline for information and referral services for the Minneapolis renters. Any questions? Thank you very much, Councilmember Johnson. I kind of slipped my mind. I move approval of all the consent items, including the two walk-in items from the Housing Policy and Development Committee agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? Well, we have passed our consent items. Now for our discussion item, the exciting part of our committee meeting today, which is the reappointment of the city assessor, considering reappointment by the executive committee of Patrick Todd to the appointment position of the city assessor for 2-year terms beginning January 2nd, 2018. And Mrs. Todd, if you would like to come up and give us a few words. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members, Mayor Patrick Todd, the Minneapolis City Assessor. I just want to say that it truly is an honor and a privilege to serve the mayor and the city council as well as the taxpayers as the city assessor. We have a lot of great things going on in my department at this point in time. We're currently working through an RFP process that will allow us to be more precise in how we value properties going forward. It'll also add a level of transparency, which I know is very important for the constituents, your constituents, and the taxpayers as well. Understanding how their value is arrived at is really, really important for the credibility of my staff and the work that we do. It'll also allow us to deliver tax information on the website, which a lot of people would like more information of, and currently we don't have the ability. So that we're really excited about. We're working through that process right now. We're also working on a Pathways program with PPL, the Project for Pride Living. So we're trying to we will be working with PPL to provide an avenue for increasing the diversity within the assessment profession, not only within Minneapolis, but statewide. And so we hope to definitely roll that out. We're working with PPL and Deed going forward. So that's really exciting. And then last but not least, we'll be mailing 130,000 valuation notices in the next 2 weeks. So we're working to try to make sure we can get on everyone's calendar to make sure that council members are very well aware of what tools are available, what information is available at their disposal for their staff, and how we can help them when taxpayers are calling. So with that, I would just say I'd ask for your support, and I would stand for questions.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me open the public hearing. We will open the public hearing. Please keep your comments to public to 2 minutes. When you step up to the microphone, if you could please state your name and address for the record, that would be appreciated. Let's open the public hearing, and then we'll ask questions from the committee. So anyone from the public who would like to speak? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. You're very popular, Mr. Todd. Having no more persons wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing and open discussions to my colleagues. We've also been joined by the mayor, who will also, would you like to say something?
Of course, Mr. Chair.
So let me open to my colleagues, and then I'll have the mayor speak as well. So Councilman Cunningham. And sorry, I forgot your name last, even though we had a meeting 2 minutes before.
I know, we just met though. All right, well, Mr. Todd, I have a quick question for you. I just would like to hear from you. What is your favorite part of this job?
Through the chair, Councilmember Cunningham, my favorite part of the job is really serving the taxpayers. When I can get out into the neighborhoods working with the council members and have 30 minutes to be able to talk about my staff and the great work that they're doing, 9 out of 10 times I have people walk up and say, you know what, I really appreciated understanding what you do, and I've learned something today. And so the more often I get out into the neighborhood and talk with the taxpayers, the more I feel my job is valued, because somebody's learned something and then they can pass it on to other people. So it's really working with the taxpayers. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Rasami and Mr. Todd. My question is, how long have you been serving in this role for the city of Minneapolis?
Through the chair, Councilmember Jenkins. I was hired by City of Minneapolis in 1990. I was appointed the city assessor in 2005 by then Mayor Ryback. And so I have gone through this process a number of times, but I tell you, every time I get up, I feel like it's a new day, and I absolutely have no regrets. And I think I've got a lot of, at least a few more years of good service for the taxpayers and the mayor and the council. So, but I have a lot of good institutional knowledge.
And then, I guess as a follow-up question, what do you see as some of the challenges for trying to keep home ownership affordable in Minneapolis?
Oh, let's see, where's my magic 8-ball? Affordability is really a challenge, just because my staff are tracking what people are willing to pay. And by statute, we need to be at 100% of what people are paying for real estate. And so the challenge is we have little to do with the taxes other than the fact that the value is tied to taxes. You know, it has to be budgets, it has to be really done at the legislative level, I think. When I sit back and we've had conversations over the years, I think that the solution is more at the legislative level. I could show you charts and graphs how over the years, and we're probably talking 15 years, the commercial tax rate was about twice what it is today. The apartment tax rate was about twice what it is today. You go back to same year, same 15 years, the residential tax rate was the exact same as it is today. So if you put that on a chart and you go, well, commercial tax rates dropped 50, apartments have dropped 50, but the residential hasn't. It's a very hydraulic hydraulic theory that if they're paying less, somebody else has to pay more. And so really, the people that are paying more is a residential property taxpayer. Now, who's over at the legislature advocating? We have commercial people advocating, or we have people advocating for the commercial people. We have people advocating for the industrial and the apartment, but I oftentimes don't see anybody over at the legislature really advocating for a change in the classification rate for property owners. Probably could be because it's really difficult to get a consensus. There's BOMA, building owners and managers. There's many associations that are really, that bind together and are over at the legislature advocating for their interest. But I seldom see that for the residential property owners. That would probably be my best answer at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Todd.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Council Vice President Jenkins. Councilmen Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, just a comment, which is just, I think often we probably most hear about your office when somebody's mad about their assessment or when they've got questions, but I'll say that I've not heard a lot of that, and when I have, when we've gotten explanations, it's made a lot of sense. So I appreciate that, and I know that sometimes you take some heat for market forces that are a little out of your control in your office, and I think you all handle that very gracefully. One of the theories about affordability, sort of digging into this more, is that as we build more new housing stock, that's going to depreciate the value of aging housing stock a little bit as it's competing with housing stock with newer amenities, et cetera. Are there things we can be doing, and are there things that you're working on that can make our assessments more sensitive to those decreases that happen as the quality of stock and the competitiveness of housing stock changes over time, as we sort of capture those real estate values so that people aren't being overassessed for properties compared to what they would actually sell for?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. Through the chair, Councilmember Fletcher. Values will pull back when the supply is greater than demand. Right now, we are not seeing the amount of volume on the market, and so when we're seeing year over year property people paying more for values than our assessed values, and these properties are currently still selling in days. Properties will be listed on Friday and sold on Monday. In a market like that, people are still bidding in bidding wars. So we're not going to be able to do much as far as values, whether the new inventory is coming on the market and we have old inventory. As soon as the buyers are recognizing that the old inventory isn't as desirable, they'll pay less, and we'll track with that. Just like in the foreclosure market from 2008, 2009, we made some significant reductions in values because the market said, hey, we're not paying as much because there's a lot of surplus, which was foreclosures. But right now, we're still seeing a lot of new construction, a lot of new apartment buildings going up. And it's amazing. But at some point, we're going to hit a saturation point, and it's going to correct itself. And then at that point, like in many markets, when we hit that saturation point, they're going to start offering amenities. They're going to be throwing in free cable. They're going to be throwing in free parking. And eventually, they have to then say, well, we're going to have to drop rents. It's usually the last thing to go. They like to throw in some freebies first to entice people. But at some point, they're going to have to start pulling rents back when the saturation point has been met. And we're just waiting for that saturation point. That answer your question?
It does. I guess I want to make sure that we're really attuned to that so that as it happens, people start to see it on their tax bills in a timely way and not, delayed by a year or two of, market adjustments.
Okay, through the chair, council member, we are measured by the Department of Revenue every year. So they look at all the sales that occurred. They'll say, what did it sell for? And what was the assessed value? And then we're measured that. And so we're very much in tune with what's going on. So not to worry that we are we're waiting for that market to change. We are seeing the inventory, and we're sometimes going, there's got to be a saturation point, and we don't measure that. We don't have statisticians per se to measure occupancy rates and things like that. We really measure what's going on in the market. And in fact, and this is something that we'll have a discussion as with some of the newer council members, we're always backward looking. So we'll take a look at what happened the last 12 months, and then we'll place the assessment the way it is today. So if the market starts to change going down in April, May, or June, our assessment was what happened in the last 12 months, and we won't anticipate or try to hedge our bets that saturation is coming. So it's sometimes very difficult because even in the downward market with the foreclosures, we would take a look at the last 12 months, we would put a value on it, but everybody kept seeing the market drop and drop and drop, and we said, well, we're right on one day, and then if the market continues to change, then we'll catch up or we'll fix that on the next assessment. So, but we always look at the last 12 months. So, thank you.
You, Councilmember Fletcher. Any other questions? I had a question, just not a question, just to give I've worked with you for 4 years, and I've worked closely with you, and I appreciate your skill and knowledge about the department that you run. But can you give us an overview of the department, how many staff you have, and some of the challenges as well?
Sure.
In the future.
I do have one of the smaller departments in the city of Minneapolis. We have a total of 39 employees, or FTEs, full-time employees. We start with the director, Rebecca Malmquist, who is here supporting me, as well as I have one of my residential supervisors. So we have the director, we have a manager of assessment services who oversees our IT. Her name is Nancy Wojak, and she has 3 staff. Then we get to the downtown. I have a chief appraiser, and he has 3 staff, and they do nothing but the downtown central business district as far as the valuations go. Then I have a residential or a commercial supervisor who does all the commercial outside of the downtown. And then I have the 2 residential supervisors that handle really the entire city of Minneapolis. So it's, from an administrative standpoint, it's not a really big department. And then I think we have about 27 appraisers and support staff as well. And we break those down. And the reason why we are as successful and as good as we are is because we break appraisers down by, or we assign work by geographic area and by property type. So I've got appraisers that do nothing but Northeast Minneapolis, and they do nothing but Northeast Minneapolis and residential. And we have a lot of volume. We have 130,000, so we can do that. But my apartment appraisers do nothing but apartments in Minneapolis. My condominium appraisers do nothing but, for the most part, condominiums. And so they get really good at knowing the areas, knowing the nuances, and really being pretty laser. So, because when people call us, when they say, yeah, I'm over on 29th and McKinley, they really think that we know exactly where they live. And to be honest with you, when my staff are in the office for a long time, they actually do. They go, oh yeah, you're that story and a half on the corner? Yeah. So that's one of the beautiful parts of having people really specialize by property type and by geographical area. So some of the challenges that we have in the department, we do have turnover just because trying to be competitive with wages and benefits with other departments. We do have a lot of volume, more of the volume than most other jurisdictions, just because Minneapolis is a very dense city. But I think that we have a lot of people that stay just because they love the city of Minneapolis. They love the vibrancy of the city of Minneapolis, and they love going out into the neighborhood. So with that, that's pretty much my department.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the council members? Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Todd, for standing for questions. You know, I've been hearing a lot of positive things about the assessor's office commitment to diversity and diversifying your workforce. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, through the chair, Councilmember Jenkins, it is a high priority for our department, and I think anytime we can make our department mirror the taxpayers that we serve, the population that we serve, it's very helpful because there's credibility that goes along with that as well. My leadership team is 60% female. I think that's a very notable number, to be honest with you. As far as city of Minneapolis versus the rest of the state, we have one of the largest, most diverse workforces. And I think we still have a long ways to go, but I don't know what our diversity numbers are, but it's a challenge because one of the problems that we have is we can go out there, we can advertise, but the applicant pool doesn't have diversity within it. So it makes it very, very difficult. And that's why we've sat down and are working with the Project for Pride in Living, and we will find the applicant pool that will be a diverse pool. We will pay for the education to get them through. We've made a commitment to work with the interns, and then after about a year to 18 months, they will be certified as Minnesota assessors through the Department of Revenue. And once you have that certification, most anybody applying for a job, be it at the city of Minneapolis or at any other jurisdiction, you will be in the top 5% just because you have that designation. So just by people coming in, we're helping them through the education and giving them that work experience, they automatically get moved to the top of the list because their competition just doesn't come in there that prepared. So it's a priority for me. It's a value of my own. It's a value I know that is shared by my staff. So we have a wonderful time, and diversity just adds to the spice of life. So good question. Thank you. And last but not least, I am very well supported. I have some of the best staff. So if I'm successful, it's only because I have outstanding staff. They're doing great work. I can't take much credit, to be honest with you.
What would be some of your advice to some of your other department leaders in the city in terms of increasing diversity?
You have to make it a priority through the chair, Councilmember Jenkins. You just have to make it a priority. And I know that a lot of the other departments are. I know the Public Works has been very successful when they were not getting the applicant pool so they could choose some good qualities. They looked at the barriers and they found ways around the barriers so that they could actually have an applicant group of people that to choose from. If you can't get to across the table to interview, there's no way you're going to get the job. And I know that the police and the fire have programs. In fact, some of this Pathways program has been modeled after the police and the fire department. But it's a priority. It has to be a priority. It has to be measured. It has to be discussed and openly discussed. Sometimes it's a difficult conversation to have. But if you have that conversation, it gets easier. Actually, the more you talk about it, the easier it gets. So,
thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Jenkins. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Todd. No questions for you. Just a comment that I really appreciate all the work that you do and that your whole team does, and it really speaks volumes to the level of trust that our residents have in you. The just smooth nature with which you run this department and run it with such integrity and run it so fairly and accurately, and it's just essential service of the city, and I look forward to continuing in that role. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing forward yet another excellent appointment.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? I'll open it up to Mayor Jacob Fry.
Thank you, Ways and Means Chair Abdi Warsami. I'm honored to put forward Patrick Todd's name for reappointment. As has already been mentioned, Mr. Todd has been with the city since 2005 with primary goals of boosting transparency and bringing additional accountability to the assessor's office, and he has done so. The assessor has developed quite a few online tools for taxpayers as well as the public to access real estate data. By and large, this is information that appears foreign or even in a different language, but he's made it readily accessible and has further work coming down the pipeline to make sure that it continues to be accessible for everyone. It also has a number of important property taxpayer programs, such as property taxpayer relief programs for homeowners, disabled veterans, and senior citizens. And as Mr. Todd already noted, that he's doing a really excellent program along with Project for Pride in Living, which is a property appraiser pathway program, which is something that I would have never thought of, but I think that's an excellent way into the city enterprise, as well as gaining quite a bit of critical financial skills. So thank you for your work there. I also want to thank Rebecca Momquist for being here. We really appreciate your work and the work of your entire staff. I think the city assessor's office is a job that oftentimes is not necessarily one of the sexiest topics, but it's one that is essential in every way, shape, and form for our city. And so, your service has been honest, it's been objective, and you clearly have an institutional knowledge that we need. So I'm proud to put your name forward, and I certainly ask for your support. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? I see none. I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Patrick Todd as the city assessor. And all those in favor? No, I'll make a move to approve the city assessor, Patrick Todd, and move this recommendation to the full council on our next meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? The ayes have it, and congratulations, Mr. Todd. And before we close our wonderful meeting, I have a public hearing announcement to make. The city of Minneapolis has two large capital improvement projects that are nearly completed with architectural plans. These projects include a new public works storage and maintenance facility at 27th and University, the renovation of City Hall offices, and the construction of a new city office building to house a public service center. The city has laid out a budget for how to pay for these buildings, which does not increase future property tax levies. We need to move to the next steps of what type of bond financing the city will use. State statutes enable the city to use a capital improvement plan bond for much of these improvements. A public hearing on the use of this financing tool will occur on March 20th, 2018 at this committee's meeting. And that's the announcement I'd like to make. And seeing no other work in front of us, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. So thank you.